Good morning and welcome to the Xpressbet Racing Report. Here at Hawthorne, I'm David Kaplan with the ace, the one and only, the great Jim Miller. Okay, we had a big weekend of Derby prep racing, and this leaderboard and all of the storylines, they just keep a-changing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Cap, we had 300-point prep races that took place last weekend, but looking at the leaderboard going into last weekend, it looked much different than what we're going to see coming out of it. And we've talked about this time and again, that it could take 40 points to get into the Derby this year. And you look back at the leaderboard going into last week, you had Pedigree, who came out of the UAE Derby with a big win, By My Standards, who was coming out of the Louisiana Derby with a big win, and now you're looking at 3 more 100-point races with 3 more horses to slide up, but the second place finishers get into the mix too, so this was really probably the biggest weekend of Derby preps.
Let's take a look at where the Derby prep standing stood a week ago.
Yeah, looking at it a week ago, like we mentioned, Pedigree was a horse that ran a really nice race in the UAE Derby, but this is a horse that probably won't even be competitive in the Kentucky Derby, and he stood atop the standings with 104 points. By My Standards, a horse that ran a really nice race in Louisiana, and Maximum Security, who won the Xpressbet Florida Derby. They're both sitting there with 100 points, but again, they're going to be pretty high prices, I would expect, when you get to Kentucky Derby Day. These 3 preps that took place last weekend, I think, are kind of sorting out who are really going to be the major contenders.
All right, so we had the Wood, the Bluegrass, we had Santa Anita. Let's go out to the Wood. Let's show you the race and then give you our perspective on just what took place. Here's the running of the Wood Memorial.
They're off in the Wood Memorial, and Tex goes out to the early lead. Jovia goes right with him, and having to take back off of them is Tacitus, who will be third early on. And then it's Over Deliver in fourth. Not That Brady is next. Over Deliver had traffic trouble on that turn. And then on the inside is Hoffa's Union, a break of another length and a half, and then comes Outshine on the outside of High Cal. Final Jeopardy is next, and then comes Math Wizard and Grump's Little Tots. 23.62 was the opening quarter mile. Onto the backstretch with Not That Brady and Jovia together on the lead. They've opened up a 5-length advantage on Tax. Tacitus is running along in fourth. He's 8 lengths off the lead. Then it's Hoffa's Union, Over Deliver. Outshine is a good 12 lengths behind as they scatter up the backstretch at a good pace up top. Then comes High Cal, followed by Math Wizard to the outside. And then it's Grump's Little Tots. And now the trailer is Final Jeopardy after a 46.91 half mile. So the battle continues. Not That Brady on the outside and Jovia at the rail. These two 7 lengths in front of the field as they make their way around the turn. Tax is now asked to run in third, 6 lengths off the lead. Tacitus still has 8 lengths to make up. Then it's Hoffa's Union. They're making their way to the top of the stretch. Not That Brady has put away Jovia, but here come Tax and Tacitus with their runs. 3/4 in 111.46, and they're into the stretch. And here comes Tax and Tacitus, and the two of them are right together as they come to the 8th pole. Long shot Math Wizard has run a big one. He's third on the outside. Tacitus on the outside. Tax along the rail. Tacitus and Tax locked in battle at the 16th pole. It's Tacitus in front. Tax second on the inside as they come down to the line. High Cal takes third late. It is Tacitus in the Wood Memorial. Tax was second. High Cal was third. Math Wizard was fourth in 151.23.
So there was the Wood Memorial. Tacitus gets it done. Tax, a horse that I had in my exotics, finished second. It was a good, fun race.
It was a good, fun race, and we talked about how deep this race was and just how much of a quality field it was. And when you look at it, Tacitus was a horse that Bill Mott said probably needed another race off that victory going into the Wood Memorial. This was a very impressive performance, and you and I both did like Tax. Tax ran its heart out. This was a horse that was a part of the mix the whole way around, rated well off the pace, finished okay, and I think this is a horse that could be a factor on Derby Day. And then even look down to the 3rd place finisher in High Cal. This is the one who won the Gotham. Going to need a pace meltdown if the horse is going to be competitive in the Derby. May be able to get that, though, and High Cal ran on for a pretty good 3rd place performance.
How do horses, in your experience, fare coming from the Wood? You go back through the years, there have been some great Derby champions, but would you say it's the number one springboard, or is it not?
It's about a middle-of-the-road springboard. I mean, you can go back to the years where you have Funny Side, who came out of the race and won the Kentucky Derby, but then you have like Vino Rosso, who came out and just kind of clunked up there in the Derby and just split the field. So it really is hit and miss. It's based on the quality of horses. Fortunately for these horses, the ship to Kentucky is much shorter. So because of that, you get these horses, they'll go down to Louisville, get ready for the race, and because of the quality of this field, you could see multiple horses having an impact in the Kentucky Derby.
All right. The Bluegrass was run as well. Let's take a look at the running of that race.
We're off in the Commonwealth. Uno Mas Modelo. Quick into stride. Recruiting Ready is there to the inside. Now Bobby's Wicked One moves up. Richie's in the house is there in fourth. Warriors Club away fifth. New York Central comes out running in sixth position. Uncontested is seventh down toward the inside. Limousine Liberal away running in eighth. Supreme Aura is in ninth. Still having fun is 10th down toward the inside of horses. And an awkward move there for Runaway Ghost in between horses. Moves up one spot into 11th. And Majestic Dunhill at the back. 22.88 seconds the time for the opening quarter. Bobby's Wicked One against the rail, leading Richie's in the house by a half length. Warriors Club moves up to join them third, less than a length off the lead. Far outside, Recruiting Ready fourth. Uno Mas Modelo fifth. New York Central wide sixth. Running 3 lengths off the lead, now moving up into fourth by a head. Limousine Liberal looking toward the center of the track. 5 lengths off the lead. And then Uncontested back toward the rail, still with 7 lengths to make up as they turn for home. Bobby's Wicked One, Richie's in the house, Warriors Club, New York Central, Limousine Liberal to the far outside, Recruiting Ready, his 6 back toward the inside. Warriors Club coming after Bobby's Wicked One, New York Central, then Limousine Liberal. Bobby's Wicked One fighting on to the inside of the final furlong. Warriors Club still trying. Bobby's Wicked One is hanging tough with the lead, though. Bobby's Wicked One, Miguel Mena with the lead. Bobby's Wicked One to win the Commonwealth. Warriors Club was home second. Limousine Liberal was third. Recruiting Ready came up the inside to grab fourth.
Okay, so there was Derby Prep 2, another 100-point race last week. Vekoma gets it done. It was another fun race that I had money on that I didn't cash.
Yeah, and Vekoma, really kind of a weird way for this horse of going. It isn't the prettiest going of horses, but we said going into the race this was not the strongest of the preps. Really thought it was only going to be a one-horse race, and it was Vekoma. That was the horse that dominated the race. Not a big speed figure, and a horse that's probably going to be overlooked in the Kentucky Derby. 20-30 to 1 for a horse like this just because of the lack of figures. But again, you look at the strength of the wood, I think the top 4 would have won the Bluegrass. I think that's how good the wood was. But Vekoma did enough to get into the Kentucky Derby, and it's a lot of points. It's 100 points, so this is a horse that's in the field.
Do you think there will be ownership groups that'll look back and go, what were we thinking? We should have gone there.
I think after the fact they are, because you just look at this race. I mean, Vekoma won clearly, too. So when you're looking at these horses that were in need of points moving forward, if this horse, any of these horses had finished second in that race, there would be enough points to get into the Kentucky Derby. So there may be some people shaking their heads in that, shuffling around a little bit. And with only 2 more preps left this weekend, there's some people that may now just have to be looking forward to the Preakness.
All right, we're going to take a timeout, and then we're going to show you the Santa Anita Derby, get Jim's thoughts on that, and then give you the updated Derby leaderboard where they sit with points, because if you don't get to that 40-point range or thereabouts, you're not going to be there the first Saturday in May at Churchill Downs in the Run for the Roses. Also, go to Xpressbet.com. You got to put the app on your phone, on your iPad, on your tablet. You got to go to the website, Xpressbet.com. Amazing promos, 20, 100, 500, depending on how much you like to wager and play. But when Derby Day rolls around, don't be scrambling. You want to have it in, have it all set up, have a few dollars in there, and have a whole lot of fun. Xpressbet.com. With Jim, I'm Cap. We'll take a time out. We'll come back, show you the running of the Santa Anita Derby, and later in the show, we'll try to make you some money with the Lexington this week. We'll be right back.
Whether you're at home or at the track, have a stake in the race when you bet with Xpressbet. Sign up for an Xpressbet online betting account and receive up to a $500 sign-up bonus.
We roll on here on the Xpressbet Racing Report with Jim Miller. I'm David Kaplan. We're at Hawthorne, just west of downtown Chicago. So we have 2 more races this week. We're finishing up all these Derby preps. We've got the Lexington. The big one is the Arkansas Derby. But we had 300-point races a week ago. The Santa Anita, the third one.
Right, in the Santa Anita Derby, this was a race with a smaller field, but a lot of highly regarded horses in this race. You had Instagram from the barn of Jerry Hollendorfer, who was looking for points and much-needed points, and then 2 Bob Baffert horses who needed some points as well. One in Roadster, who definitely needed a win or a second-place finish, and then Game Winner, who just needed a good performance, but for a short field, it turned out to be a great race.
Great race with a lot of talent there. So let's take a look at the Santa Anita Derby.
And they're off in the Santa Anita Derby, and Instagram bounces out smartly and takes the lead, clears the field at once. Nolo Contesto is second, and Roadster is being rated toward the back of the pack as Synthesis moves up 1 from the outside, and Game Winner, understandably, is 4 wide into the first turn. More Ice is just on the outside of Roadster. Into the first turn they go, chasing Instagram, who leads by a length and a half. Nolo Contesto is in second, Synthesis now third. Roadster inches up a bit on the inside fourth. He's 2.5 lengths off Instagram, and Game Winner is outside of that pair. More Ice is at the back of the field. 4 lengths covers them. Onto the backstretch they go. The pace is moderate, and it's Instagram in charge. He leads it by a 1/2 length to Nolo Contesto. Synthesis is 3 wide. Game Winner outside of him. Roadster galloping along comfortably, about 3.5, 4 lengths off the lead, and More Ice is outside of him. They passed the half-mile pole in the Santa Anita Derby, and it's Instagram showing the way 3/4 of a length. Nolo Contesto is now called on. Game Winner makes an early move on the outside third. He's a length off Instagram. Synthesis is next. It's then a big gap back to Roadster, who has 8 lengths to make up, and More Ice is outside of him. They're coming to the quarter pole. Instagram has been headed by both Game Winner and Nolo Contesto, but now Instagram called on and he fights back. Instagram, Game Winner, Roadster is finding his best ride in the center of the track, putting in a big effort. Game Winner between horses, Instagram at the rail, and here's Roadster storming home. Roadster on the outside and Game Winner go on with it. Roadster so confidently handled, and Roadster gets up to win the Santa Anita Derby ultra impressively. Game Winner was second, Instagram third, Nolo Contesto fourth.
So there was the Santa Anita Derby, and I thought you called it perfectly. Game Winner needed a good trip, pick up a few points, not get injured, everything fine. Roadster, a Baffert horse with Mike Smith up, needed to go out and show itself, and did.
Yeah, and this was a horse that was highly regarded, Cap, a horse that had dealt with some injury issues earlier on in its career, some time away from the racetrack, needed to come back strong, and needed to run a big race for 2 reasons. 1, to make sure that your horse is rearing and ready to go, but 2, to get those much-needed points going into the Kentucky Derby, and Roadster ran that really big race. Instagram, the horse who finished third, I thought ran a nice race, and the biggest question was going to be distance, and if the breeding was going to allow this horse to make the distance. Ended up finishing third, doesn't make the Derby. It wouldn't surprise me if this is a horse that shows up actually in the Preakness in the little bit shorter distance at the 1 3/16. And then Game Winner, the horse that was right in between those two, another good, solid race. And this is a horse that just seems to grind it out each and every time and run in the mix. And that's what I expect that you're going to see from Game Winner Kentucky Derby Day. But because the horse didn't win this race, I think you get a little bit more value. You might be looking at 8 or 10 to 1 on Game Winner.
So I got an email from a loyal viewer to the show, Jimmy K, and he said, hey, I have Roadster. I can't remember, he said 12 or 15 to 1. That horse is now down to 6 to 1 in Derby future betting. He bet it before and then sat back and laughed at everybody when Roadster won this race.
Yeah, and that was a smart thing about that wager is you look at all the Derby future pools. I mean, Roadster is a part of the field at one point. Then you're looking at big prices, 20 to 1. You're getting 15 to 1 in that. The last pool closed last weekend right after this race was run, and the horse was down to the 6 to 1 favorite. So that's what happens when you see these big performances. He's going to have to repeat it in the Kentucky Derby, but he didn't show any reason why he wouldn't repeat that race because that was a really good race in the Santa Anita Derby.
All right, so let's take a look at the current Derby points leaderboard and have Jim take us through it because, again, 40 points or so is what you're going to need to get in.
Yeah, and you look at it now, we're all the way down to 17th in the Derby points leaders for 40 points, and that seems to be that magical mark, especially with the Arkansas Derby taking place this weekend. Tacitus, your leader at 150 points, who's just run very good races. But like we talked about, you look, Vacoma's sitting there at second with 110 points. I don't know if that horse is even going to be a factor. Pluquet Parfait, 104 points again, may not even be a factor, so you need to start looking a little bit further down here. You see High Call down there at 70 points. Tax at 52 points. But now you look at these horses that are still having to race this weekend. Another twist of fate we're going to see in the Lexington. Improbable we're going to see in the Arkansas Derby. They need points just to get into the Kentucky Derby, and these are very talented racehorses.
Yeah, I look at a horse like Omaha Beach, who I think is a talented horse, sitting down there at 37.5.
Right.
19th.
Yeah, right. And he's in the Arkansas Derby this weekend, but here's the thing. If he runs 5th, he probably doesn't get into the Kentucky Derby, and he's a very talented racehorse. He's going to have to finish top 3, so that's the thing. We're 3 weeks out from the Kentucky Derby now, but these are horses that still need those points, so they need a maximum effort upcoming in the Arkansas Derby.
And these are some of these horses in that area, Bodie Express, they thought, yeah, I'm a Derby horse.
Right.
Not necessarily.
Right, and that's the cool thing about this year. You haven't had that dominant horse. You haven't had the Justify who's winning prep after prep after prep. It's just not happening. Everything's been spread out this year, and it's really cool because it allows the point system to do its job, gives you multiple opportunities, but also gives the opportunity for some of these horses to wheel back quickly with that chance to get maybe one more chance at some points.
Yeah, and I look at Instagram sitting there with 30, Bourbon War with 31, so...
Yeah, and Bourbon War was a horse I like quite a bit, and I'm still hoping that Bourbon War gets into the race. And for me, for a horse like Bourbon War to get into the Kentucky Derby, you're going to need the favorites to run well in the Arkansas Derby so nobody else gets those points. And then Bourbon War still needs a defection to get into the Kentucky Derby, but that's hard because they're not coming back in a prep this weekend. They're just going to pretty much wait and see.
All right, we've got to take a timeout. We come back, we're going to show you the setup and how we look at the Arkansas Derby. We'll set the field for the last big 100-point race. Of course, the Lexington worth 20 as well. The Arkansas Derby is the jewel this weekend. We'll take you through that and remind you to go to Xpressbet.com, set your account up, make sure you're ready to roll for the races this weekend, and most importantly, the first Saturday in May, the Run for the Roses at Churchill Downs, the Kentucky Derby. With Jim, I'm Cap. We'll be right back to Hawthorne.
Whether you're at home or at the track, have a stake in the race when you bet with Xpressbet. Sign up for an Xpressbet online betting account and receive up to a $500 sign-up bonus.
All right, time to break down the last big 100-point race. There's some really good horses that need to get some points. He's Jim Miller. I'm David Kaplan, and you're watching the Xpressbet Racing Report here on NBC Sports Chicago. Okay, 100-point race. Oaklawn Park is the site. It's $1 million race. But I look at a horse like Omaha Beach sitting there in the 3-hole, 2-1, Improbables 8-5.
Right.
These horses need points.
Both of them need points. Omaha Beach is sitting there with 37.5 points. You look down at Improbable with 25 points. They have to finish first or second if they're going to get into the Derby. Maybe Omaha Beach can finish third to get into the Kentucky Derby, but they're going to have to run big races. So these are horses that are good, legitimate race horses. Horse like Improbable's probably going to go favored. You're coming from the barn of Bob Baffert. Omaha Beach ran a really good race, and this horse beat Game Winner last time out. We just saw Game Winner run second in the Santa Anita Derby earlier on in the show. So again, a legitimate racehorse here, but this is a very good race.
Okay, there's a horse like Long Range Toddy, who's coming from the outside. That horse is 5-1.
Yeah.
There are some pretty talented horses in this field.
Yeah, and the thing about Long Range Toddy in that last race, this was a horse that you weren't sure if he was going to get up in time because he kind of waited back, swung out to the center, and then rallied late, and that was a very good ride there by John Court. Court's back again in this one aboard this horse. I think you're going to get more than 5-1 in this race because I think the two favorites will take all of the money. But again, you get a race where pace is going to really kind of make the race, and there's not a ton of speed in this race, so I'll be curious to see what they choose to do with Long Range Toddy because he's already into the Kentucky Derby. Maybe you just want a good performance. If you finish 3rd or 4th, that might be good enough.
Right, but for a couple of these, it's not enough.
Yeah, for a lot of these horses, this is all or nothing here, Cap. You need to go out there. You have to win or finish second just to get to that 40-point mark. So you could see some long shots that are maybe changing their tactics a little bit in this race. If you don't see a whole lot of speed in here, don't be surprised if somebody at a long price tries to shoot out there on the front end. Maybe change the complexion of the race pace-wise, see if you can pick up a bias on the racetrack earlier on in the day, and then try to steal the race and then get your way into the Kentucky Derby. Because even if you lead them into the lane, get caught late by one of these other horses, second place will be good enough.
Right, but you may wake up and go, oh my God, we actually got enough points. We're going to the Derby.
Right, and that's
never
the key.
Expected.
No, and everybody's trying for that reason. And there's some horses I'm going to use in my bets later on just because of that. But I'll tell you, really, this is a fun race and a really good race going forth for our final 100-point prep.
All right, our breeding and pedigree expert is the great Ren Carothers, and she files this report as we look toward Arkansas Derby Day.
I'm standing with West Point Thoroughbreds Jeff Lowe, and they have Galilean in the $1 million Grade 1 Arkansas Derby. How excited are you?
This is what you want to be, the kind of race you want to be in. So we're just over the moon to be in this kind of spot with a horse that, you kind of turned out to be what our buying team thought he would be.
Well, you paid $600,000 for this horse. Obviously, expectations were high. He's by Uncle Mo. Uncle Mo would have been your favorite for the Kentucky Derby in 2011. He had a scratch due to a liver issue, but he did go on to sire Nyquist, who captured the roses. So you definitely have the pedigree there. He also has a really interesting bottom side coming from the female family of Dance Smartly Hall of Famer and Smart Strike.
Sure, that's Samson Farm through and through. I think 3 or 4 generations back, but you kind of wonder if you're seeing that, along with the really nice sire on top.
Well, of course, and especially also going back to Smart Strike, not only was he an accomplished racehorse himself, but he did produce Curlin. So let's talk about the last start in the Rebel. What the running lines do not tell you in the past performances is that he was slow to the gate. Looked like he might have brushed the shoulder a little bit, but I think that makes the performance pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was kind of a gritty performance. I think that he has shipped a little bit better from what we hear. Looking for him to step forward a little bit, which is what he needs to do to really have a chance to crack the Derby field and move forward so he's competitive on the first Saturday in May.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for your time. Again, Galilean taking on the likes of Omaha Beach and Improbable in the Arkansas Derby on Saturday.
Thanks very much, Ren. Okay, when we come back on the show, we'll have our wagers. We'll look at the Lexington, a 20-point race, but for somebody, those points could be crucial.
Yep.
And see if we can make people some money.
Well, and that's the goal. We want to build the bankroll. This is the last chance for us to pad the bankroll before the Kentucky Derby, where we're going after it big. There's going to be big prices in this year's Derby, so let's see if we can make some money this week so we move forward 3 weeks from now.
All right, and again, Xpressbet.com is your spot. Set your account up if you don't have one. If you do, make sure you got a little bit of money in there. Have some fun today with 2 good races, the Arkansas Derby and the Lexington, and then get yourself set for the first Saturday in May, one of the great days in American sports. We'll take a time out with Jim Miller. I'm David Kaplan. When we come back, our wagers, we try and make you some more cash here on the Xpressbet Racing Report.
Whether you're at home or at the track, have a stake in the race when you bet with Xpressbet. Sign up for an Xpressbet online betting account and receive up to a $500 sign-up bonus.
All right, welcome back. Xpressbet Racing Report rolling on. We're going to try and make you some money in this segment. Jim has handicapped this race top to bottom. We'll get our picks coming up in a little bit. We also have the race, 20-point race.
Right.
Lexington.
This is the year that the Lexington is actually the most important for some of these horses, only for the fact that 20 points will be enough for 2 horses in the race. The 3-horse Sueño and the 4, Another Twist of Fate. They're both on the outside looking in right now, Cap. They both get into the race with a victory. So these are the 2 horses you really have to look to. Another Twist of Fate ran a huge race in the Sunland Derby, only to finish 2nd in there. Then you look at Sueño. This was the horse that finished 3rd in the Louisiana Derby. Again, a talented racehorse. They are both in need of points, though. The winner of this race, I think, not only goes on to the Kentucky Derby, but I think could be a factor in the Kentucky Derby also.
So we may have, in fact, we will have a couple of horses that don't get in that you go, they could have won the race.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like I said, I'm sitting here with Bourbon War just hoping and praying that the horse can make it into the Kentucky Derby. And the only way that horse also gets in is if one of these 2 do not win this race. And there's a little bit of a long shot that wins just because of the amount of points that are going to be out there. But really, a very deep and talented field this year. But because of that, there's also not going to be a heavy favorite and huge chances at prices.
Okay, so we are going to handicap the Arkansas Derby, make our picks. And it's funny. I was handicapping over here, looking at workout times and all. You had your picks. I go, don't tell me because I don't want you to think I jumped. And we have fairly similar horses, a couple different, but.
Yeah, we're both making exacta boxes here, and the way that I'm going to look into the Arkansas Derby, I'm going to 4-horse exacta box with 2 horses that definitely need points, and then 2 horses that would be a little bit of an upset just to get into the race. But you figure Improbable needs the race to get in. Omaha Beach needs the race to get in. So I'm using those 2. Then there's 2 horses I'm going to look at as well. I'm going to use a long shot in the 2-horse 6-shooter, who hasn't done a ton, but you look at the last 4 races, he's run well against all these horses that are competitive in this race and horses that may already be in the Kentucky Derby. He's going to be 50-1 in this race. And then you look at Galilean, the 7-horse, this one from the barn of Jerry Hollendorfer. He just finished 3rd to Long Range Toddy in that last out, and it wasn't the greatest of trips. He does have some ability. He's 10-1 in the morning line, but again, probably going to trickle up to 12 or 15-1. So for me, a $10 exacta box, because I didn't hit big like you did in the first week of the show. So $10 exacta box, 1, 2, 3, 7 for me in the Arkansas Derby.
All right, so I'm going to be on the same race. I'm going $20 exacta box because I have a little bit more money to play with. I like Improbable in Omaha Beach. They're razor sharp. They have motivation. They need the points. So I'm going to put those 2 in. I'm going to use Galilean, but I'm going to add in a horse that I think goes off somewhere around 18-20-1. Country House. Razor sharp, coming off of really good workouts. I think this horse has a chance to make a big run here.
Yeah, and this is a focus for Bill Mott now because he already has Tacitus going to the Kentucky Derby. This is a chance to get horse number 2, and this is a talented racehorse as well. But again, you look at the complexion of the race. If there is a quick and contested pace, Country House is going to rate back early on, come charging late in the lane. That's how Long Range Toddy won earlier on in the Oaklawn meet. Country House might get that trip at a big price.
All right, we'll see if we can make everybody some money. Thank you so much for watching the Xpressbet Racing Report. We will see you next week because there's a big handicapping contest going on at Hawthorne Race Course, and we'll take you inside the world of high-tech and intense handicapping. For Jim, our great crew out here, I'm David Kaplan. May all your tickets be winners.